Somewhat.
Rejuvenated, right?
Kind of.
And so good to have you this morning for this first service. It is going to be a blessing to you. I say this unashamedly, that our speaker this morning is, I believe, the most used missionary in the world today. He originates out of Manila, the Philippines. How many churches are in your whole?
Our network, immediate multi-site, 23.
23 churches in Manila. Just a couple of weeks ago, they had a friend day at 27,000. He has just become the president of Louisiana Baptist University, of which I am thrilled. And adding to all the responsibilities he has. He is making a worldwide impact. A worldwide impact. And we're so privileged to have him today. I feel like it's almost like having the Apostle Paul here.
He got put in jail.
Yeah, you have to look at both sides of the
Oh, yeah.
And I know you're going to recognize him with Brother Gonzalez. Would you stand for just a second, please? Brother Gonzalez is a product, he's a Filipino, product of Gregg's ministry. He called to preach, got saved when you were 14, is that correct? Got saved when he was 14. Looks like he's 15 now. For the last 5 years, he's been pastoring in Phnom Penh in Cambodia and has a church running over 100. Amen. Now that is amazing. And we're so excited to bring you, I think, the finest missionary speakers that are available in America today. And this has been a grand conference. Amen. And we just feel the Spirit of God here, and we're just excited time after time after time after time as it builds. Dr. Gregg Lyons.
Wow, I need to travel with your pastor. I need a really good front man. And I have just grown to love your pastor. He's a good friend, and I have followed his ministry before I got to know him, and am blessed to be part of your church as one of your missionaries. It's actually quite humbling, to be honest with you. And I think Victory Baptist Church and our church of Manila Community Baptist Church, I think we share a similar mindset. We have a notion that we can change the world from our little church, you know. And I wish every church had that notion. Because who knows what God could do with people like that. You know, it's never been a big group that has changed the world. It's always been a small group. A small group of committed believers who just followed God. My life as a missionary has just been a series of following open doors. I had a friend talk to me. He says, I wish I could understand your strategy. And I said, I wish I could too. I said, but my life has been very much like this. I went to Manila. I wanted to start a church. I wanted to reach young people. It was as if God put me on a bus, and he was driving, and we were rushing through Metro Manila. And every once in a while, he would pull up and he would push me out the door and say, hey, Lyons, go do something there. And I would do it. And boy, I'd enjoy it. I'd be having a good time. And then I get yanked back on the bus, and we take off, go to another adventure. And he pushes me out again. And I've just really done my best just to follow the open doors that God provides. And it's not always been comfortable. Sometimes it didn't even make sense. But I want to be where God's working. I don't want to work and try to bring God in. I want to be where God's working. And where He's working, I want to get there as fast as I can and be part of what He's doing, because that seems like a good plan. And God has just seemed to put His hand on some of the things we've done. And I don't do this alone. Okay, so our Friend Day, and boy, honestly, the Friend Day report blew me away, because you ever set a goal? I know you have set a goal, and you walked away from casting that vision and setting that goal, and you fall on your knees and you say, "Oh God, what have I done? Could this even happen?" And this was the first real major evangelistic effort, the Friend Day, in just a couple of months ago in Manila after COVID. Now, the Philippines is number one in many areas. Okay, we're number one in counterfeit $100 and $50 bills. Okay. We're number one in beauty queens, okay? And now we're number one in the longest quarantine lockdown in history. 24 months. We just, a week ago, lifted the outdoor mask mandate. The indoor mask mandate is still in place. And it's been kind of crazy. For 24 months, anybody 18 and below were not allowed out of the house. How many of you have teenagers? You got some teenagers. I met you, brother. You got some teenagers, man. I had 6 teenagers. Can you imagine your teenagers not leaving the house for 24 months? You'll lose all your hair. I mean, it will happen. In a very real sense, what happened was teenage depression skyrocketed. Teenage suicide skyrocketed. Education of young people plummeted. It has set the country back for 2 years. By the way, 65 and older were not allowed out of the house. We had to sneak my dad to Starbucks, okay? Put him under a blanket, and get him in there. So it was very brutal. I do have a funny story, and I'll get into my message. Open your Bibles to 1 Samuel 17 while I'm telling the story. So when the lockdown happened, it was military grade. Now, you pass from Rolette to Garland to all of these other cities around here, Mesquite, and you don't even, if you're not paying attention, you'll go into another city and not know it. Is that right? Well, when COVID happened, all of the 16 municipalities and cities of Metro Manila, every one of them threw up a military-grade checkpoint. You couldn't go from city to city without going through a checkpoint. All the mayors, the individual mayors, were trying to keep their people safe. They didn't want COVID coming in. And so if you're on another board, the other mayor didn't want you to come out. And so they had checkpoints on each side that you had to go through to get where we're going. Well, I'm not the type of guy that can just sit at home. And so after about 10 days, I told Luann, I said, I gotta find out where I can go. She says, "What are you gonna?" They got checkpoint. I says, "I gotta find out how far. What's gonna happen? They're gonna turn me around. No big deal. I'll just turn around. But I've got to test the water." So I got in the car. She says, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "Give me some money. I'll go deposit in the bank. That's an essential thing, And so she gave me some money, and which all wives can do. They seem to have money. But I got in the car and I took off, and I came up to the first checkpoint, and the guy's got fatigue, some shield on, big weapon, and I come up, roll down my window, and I'm looking at him. He's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I gotta go to the bank." "Well, why are you going to the bank?" I got to deposit. Got to have money in the bank. I got to make a deposit. He says, "Well, where's the bank?" I says, "Over in Ortigas Center, this part of town." He says, "Are you going anywhere else?" I said, "Yeah, I'll probably stop at my office. My office is in the same building as the bank." He says, "Well, what's the building name?" I said, "The name is Medical Plaza." Now, Medical Plaza building where our office, there used to be a hospital across the street, and the doctors used to have places there. And so they've never changed, even though the hospital's gone, moved to another place, they kept the building name. And he says, well, what do you do there? And after that time, I thought, am I going to go through 30 questions here just to get through this thing? So I said, well, here. And I reached in my pocket and I pulled out my card. Now, I have a PhD from Louisiana Baptist University. So I have on my card, Dr. Gregg Lyons. So I just showed him my card. I said, well, here's my card. He looks at that and he goes, oh, doctor, you should be in the fast lane. Let me help you out. And he starts moving cars and waving me on, And finally, that card got me some respect, Been waiting a long time for that, Told Luann I got to get a stethoscope and hang on my rearview mirror as I go through town because I get through town. So we just didn't let it stop us, and we continued to do the ministry, and we're celebrating something this year and there's a card out there on the table. By the way, there's cards for missionary Rainiel Gonzalez, and I'm going to talk about him in a minute. But we celebrate today, and this is a win for Victory Baptist Church, because you partner with us. But by God's grace and all the glory to Him, our team has been keeping track of how many people have been saved through the years of Global Surge. And this year we celebrate 1 million souls saved since we began. And you have a part in that. So grab one of these and then let's start praying for the next million. Because if God gave us one, He can go give us two. And we'll continue with our notion that we can change the world. Title of my message is Go Goliath or Go Home. 1 Samuel 17. We all know the story. It's nothing new to us. Is there a clock here? Where's the clock? It's right here in front of me. Okay, all right. I'll keep an eye on that. We all know the story. There's books written about it. In addition to the Bible, there is movies, TV shows, all kinds of stuff. We've heard it. But I'd like us to go back during the time of the battle of Goliath. And I'd like us to, in our minds, to kind of recreate what it was like to be on that battlefield. What would it smell like if you're on that battlefield? What would you hear? What were the emotions at play there? Sometimes I think we read these stories and we just pass over them, and we don't get a feel of what really was going on in that setting. You're there with tens of thousands of men who are preparing for battle and who had made fires and cooked and stuff like that, and then you hear the clanking of the swords and the shields and the armor. It was all around you. You couldn't get away from it. And I've never been in the military, and I respect every veteran we have. But I've talked to some who have been in battle and in difficult places. And from what they've told me, when you enter a battle, you really do think this could be the last day. That is part of what you face. And these men were facing, no doubt they had had previous battles. And some of their friends had died. And I wonder what they were thinking. Well, could this be the day? And I need to fight hard. I need to fight hard for my army, for God, and even to survive. That's a sobering thought when you wake up in the morning and you hear that and you smell that and you know that this could be the day that the horn is sounded and you're off to march and you don't know if you'll come back. And then David shows up, a teenager, with some food for his brothers, sent by his dad. And like every teenager, they're curious. What's going on? They just want to be part of the action. And he was not a warrior. He was a shepherd. He didn't have an armor. He just had his regular shepherd's clothes that he came with. And he was there to see his brothers and report back to his dad. And this is the army also that has a history, okay? Let me begin and start in verse 21, 1 Samuel 17:21. For Israel and the Philistines had drawn up in battle array, army against army, and David left his supplies in the hand of the supply keeper, ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. Then as he talked with them, there was the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines, and he spoke according to the same words. So David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, for they were dreadfully afraid. Now, the battle is there. The valley of Elah is where they are at. You have the encampment of the Philistines on one side. You have the encampment of the Israelites on the other side. They could see the other forces, 40,000 men on one side and multiple thousand men on the other side of the Israeli army. And this giant of a man, Goliath, 8 to 9 feet tall, comes out and he says this. He says, we don't need to fight army against army. Just send me one man. Just send me one man. And let him and I fight. And whoever wins will be the victor. And nobody in the army was willing to volunteer to go fight him. Nobody. It says they were dreadfully afraid. Now, this is the same army that had a history. They knew their history. This is the same people that served an almighty God, a powerful God, that they knew the story of the parting of the Red Sea. When the Israelites moved across the Red Sea, and God, through his mighty hand, using the Red Sea, crushed the known superpower at that time. I mean, decimated. They knew that. They knew the stories of their ancestors who traversed the wilderness and fought battle after battle. That fact, when the nation, the city-state nations of the wilderness heard that the Israelis were there, they trembled in fear because they knew nobody has defeated their God. And the army had that history. They knew of the history of the children of Israel when they walked up to the Jordan, and the Jordan backed up, and they walked across. They knew the story of the army that marched around Jericho, the most impregnable city at the time. Nobody had gotten through the wall, ever. And they marched around 7 times, 7 days. And then the wall is crushed by the hand of God, the same God that they served at this moment. And they didn't have to lift a sword, and the walls came down. This is the same army that has all of this history embedded in them that they have rehearsed year after year in the oral recitation of the passing on of the truth. They knew all of this. And they had seen their God work. What was different about that day that they were so afraid? Well, they forgot who they were serving. And they were just afraid. A Goliath of a problem. You ever faced a Goliath of a problem? You know, a problem that put you back on your heels. You know, I had 6 kids. I had many of those kind of problems. And it makes you really begin to think again, okay, who is my God? And can he resolve this? This is a Goliath of a problem that doesn't seem to have a solution. Happened in the pandemic. I mean, in one just seemingly a moment, God just resets history. That's what he did. He reset the church. I mean, can we be honest about that? I mean, the result of the pandemic has been infighting in a church. I prayed for pastors. I prayed for your pastor. You can't win. Masks, no masks, open, closed. You can't win. And you get castigated on Facebook. Facebook could be good, but, you could find your former, high school, person that but man, it's become a war zone nowadays, and it doesn't matter what you say. And now it's recorded, and it's for all time. And we found Christians even during this reset, this time of just fighting over things that are insignificant. 6 months from now, won't even think about it. But it was so big then. The Goliath of a problem could be a health issue. When you go to the doctor, you're okay, and all of a sudden they find something. And first thing that hits your mind, I don't know, is the C word, And it just changed. I talked to a pastor just recently that was diagnosed with some cancer, and he said to me, Gregg, it was really easy to preach about it and encourage people. It was very different when it was told to me. I mean, that's a Goliath of a problem. And but I'm here to say that the Goliath of a problem that we face is the same Goliath that this army faced. Deuteronomy 20 and verse 1 says, when thou goest out to battle against thine enemies, and seest horses and chariots, and a people more than thou, be not afraid of them, for the Lord thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Don't forget, when you face the Goliath, that the Lord your God is with you. And you're able to do this. The Goliath we faced in Manila was a lockdown. It shut down all of our ministries, and we had to find a way through. So we pivoted immediately into relief. The government allowed necrological services. I don't know if you know what necrological services. They're funerals, okay? But that's how they called it. And so we just decided that we would call our service a necrological service, celebrating the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And we had one official ask us, and we said, well, that's what we're doing. He said, well, I guess it fits. And, we had spacing and masks and all that kind of stuff. Young people really concerned us because when that happened, our evangelistic camp ministry had to shut down because we couldn't take kids to camp. And so we waited a few months, and then we as we tried to figure out, how we were going to move forward, and we thought we came up with a solution, and the solution was we have a message of hope that will help these young people. That's the solution. We can't protect them medically, but we can help them survive this of sharing Jesus Christ and the message of hope with them. And so, but we had to wade through all these protocols. So we decided to create our own COVID safe zones, CSZs. And we followed all the protocols. And we formed an organization, and we certified our churches and put a stamp on it and called them COVID safe zones, CSZs. Nobody had ever heard about it because nobody had ever done it before. And but we did it. You can do stuff like that in the Philippines. And so we did that. And then we went to the local officials, and we said to them, hey, we have a solution to the teenage depression and suicide. He said, what's that? We have a message of hope that we want to bring to the teenagers, but they're holed up in their homes. And so what we need is we need permission from you to get some of these teenagers out. But we have a place that is certified. They're called CSZs. He said, what's a CSZ? We said, COVID safe zone. He said, oh, you have those? I said, yeah, we've got them all certified, man. We showed him the paper. And he said, well, what does that mean? Every protocol that you have by your health department, we've accomplished. I mean, we've got distancing, we've got masks, we've got sanitation, we've fogged the place, we've got everything. They go in one door, go out the other door. We do everything like that. And face shields, by the way, we had face shields for about 18 months, mask and a face shield, in church. And so we did all that. And we said, we got all that, and we would like, if you'll give us permission, we would like to offer a program of hope to these young people. And we do talk about God. We were up front with them. We said, hey, yeah, it's going to be about God, and because that's what they need. And he said, wow. He says, you're the first group that has come to us offering to help, not asking for help. And he said, yeah. He said, could you take as many as 150 per time? I said, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we'll do that. So we started up our camps, the one-day camps. 150 kids a pop. It was interesting because, we didn't want to draw a lot of attention, so we opened the garage of our building. We have a garage in the bottom of our building. And so we would have vans that would pick the kids up, and the vans would circle, and we'd open the garage, they'd drive in, shut the garage, the other vans are circling, and then we'd get all the kids off. You tell them, you can't take pictures, you can't Facebook, you can't, you got to follow the protocols, everything like that. They all agreed. We'd send that out the back door. We'd wave another guy in, boom. We just had the whole thing going. Deal, got 150 kids. We were able to share the gospel with over 14,000 young people in 2020. And I tell you what, the receptivity of the kids during that time was incredible. 70% of the kids got saved. I just don't know how many lives we were able to save because they had hope. And because we have such a strong discipleship movement, we were able to move right into discipleship. In fact, we use, you ever heard of Skype? Any of you ever heard of Skype? So we called it Skypleship. We had discipleship and Skypleship. And we were discipling through the internet on Messenger and all kinds of stuff. We were not going to let this Goliath of a problem stop us. The principle that is here is, and when David said that he would face the giant, is see opportunity when others see danger. David said, what did this man say? Why? In verse 26, then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? David saw opportunity when others saw danger. Maybe the Goliath of a problem you're facing is actually really designed to bring incredible glory to God, because he's got a solution for it. And he's given you a story to tell of how that can be accomplished. And when you weren't supposed to be able to do it, God made a way. See opportunity when others see danger. Secondly, trust God's reputation, not my own ability. Saul gets wind of David, and he says, hey, I want to meet that guy that wants to fight Goliath. And so he calls David in. And we pick up the story. And verse 33, 17, 1 Samuel. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine. I mean, when this teenager shows up at the king's court, he said, you're not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him. You are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. David said to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, and when I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth, and when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck it and killed it. Now get the picture here. Those of you that are hunters, any hunters in the room? You got any hunters? Let me just get a picture of this, okay? You think you got the hunter. Okay, let's talk about this. So David here, the shepherd boy, is taking care of his sheep, and a lion comes and grabs a lamb. He's there. The lion comes, grabs a lamb in his mouth. David chases down the lion and grabs the lamb out of the lion's mouth. Don't do that, and he takes the lamb out, and he walks away. The lion growls. What does David do? Not today. He puts the lamb down. He goes and chases down the lion. I don't want to embellish scripture, but I'm thinking the lion probably realizes he's going to have a fight here. He may have been backing up a little bit. And David grabs him by the beard and clubs the lion to death. That's a hunter. Okay, do that next time you're after something. Don't be hiding in some place, sticking a little gun out there. No, go right after the animal. David was a man. He says in verse 34, your servant killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. Moreover, David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. What did David do? He trusted, and if you read that clearly, he was not talking about his ability. He was talking about God's reputation. That's what he was talking about. Trust God's reputation, not my own ability. Now, we're at a missions conference, and I know eventually, you're going to be asked to give some money. Okay? I don't mean to shock you, okay? But it's just a simple fact. Missionaries cannot do what we do without people giving to missions. And it is not a black hole. Rain, stand up there. Well, come up here. This is my friend. "20 years ago, yeah, come up right here. You need to be near. I need to look younger near you, okay? Yeah. 20 years ago, God moved our church to a place that I didn't want the church to be. It was one of those moves where you followed God kicking and screaming. Anybody ever do that? Everybody follow God? Why? God, and you just, you got to do it. And after I got past my being frustrated with God, I decided, because it was the place that we had a 5-year lease on a place. It was renovated, spent a lot of money. I'd raised money and everything. And the government changed and found out that the lease was a sublease actually under a government lease. And the government came in and conscripted the lease from out under us. Said, well, we could fight them in court, but we're the government. And we're like, this has failed. And so we had to move. We were given 30 days to move. I found out when I landed in Seattle on a trip to come speak. I left Manila happy. I landed in Seattle. My wife called me and said, hey, we just got a letter from the government. We've lost our lease and we got to move in 30 days. I said, I'm in the States for 2 weeks. She says, I know. What are we going to do? I said, I don't know, And so we end up moving to this place. It's a place that I didn't want to be. It was a place on the 4th floor of a building with no elevator. That'll kill your senior citizens. I'm telling you what. You had to offer oxygen to everybody who was pregnant and over 50 years old. And no parking, nothing. And I thought, oh, this is all we could afford. So I decided to prayer walk. That's a good thing to do. Just, why am I here, God? There is something here that you know that I don't know. I need to know what you know. And I just got out and I prayer walked, and I walked. And I walked by this high school. It was a big high school, Rizal High School. I went across the street, somebody was selling Cokes to the kids, and I said, hey, tell me about this high school. He said, oh, that's a Rizal High School. I said, really? He said, yes, that's the largest high school in the world. I said, really? He said, yeah, it's in the Guinness Book of World Records. Being a good missionary, I had to verify, so I ran and bought the book. It was in there. 42,217 kids in this high school. I looked around. There was 2 other churches. One church that had predated the high school. That church was about 89 years old. No youth ministry. Mainline denomination. There was another one, Full Gospel Church, across the street from the high school, 40 years old. No youth ministry. And it was as if God was saying, Greg, there was strike 1, strike 2, and before anything else I heard from God, I said, I will not be strike 3. And so we began reaching into this high school. Unbeknownst to me, Rain was going to be a student at that high school. And when he was 14 years old, he got saved at a camp from taking young people there. Now, this is a unique moment. Very seldom are you able to have the fruit of your giving with the missionary. And Rain's here. Rain's a direct product of the giving of people here in the States. Rain was discipled, got involved in small groups. Actually, Rain, before he surrendered to be a missionary, he was the guy who helped us launch all the new congregations around the city. He did a great job. God will always take the best people and call them. And he called Rain to be a missionary to Cambodia. And we were sad because we couldn't find another Rain after he left. Still looking for him. But he went to Cambodia. And by the way, let me say this. Rain is every bit a missionary as I am a missionary. And we Americans need to embrace this. Let's just be right there. I mean, no respecter of persons anymore. I'm cross-cultural. I left my country to go to another culture. He left his country to go to another culture. Do you like the food in Cambodia?
No, I like it. Before I don't.
Before you didn't. Now, no, get in here near the mic. So, they might not believe me, so you have to verify this, okay? In the market, they sell spiders to eat. Is that right?
They do.
Yeah.
That's right.
Have you eaten one?
I've tried.
He's honest. He's honest, yeah. They also sell roaches and other bugs. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So if they come visit you in Cambodia, will you feed them that?
They should try it.
Oh, nobody is signing up right now. I'll come along and defend you, okay? Yeah. I was talking to Rain today. We were praying together today, and I was so grateful to have him with me because this is what you do. This is the replication that is supposed to happen. And you all partner with me. I'm praying God will lead you to partner with Rain. I mean, he's a great missionary, and he's doing something there that's incredible. I got a couple of pictures of him. We got those pictures. Did we get them up there? Yeah. So this is him and his group that he's reaching. And there's another picture there. Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell the story of our conversation. Can I tell that story?
Sure.
Okay. So we needed a new church planter. Rain went over initially to help another guy plant a church. But we had this other place that we needed a church plant. And so I flew over to Cambodia to have lunch with Rain. And Rasul is the other missionary that he was working with. And Rasul told Rain, look out, because Pastor Gregg's coming. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a saying that God loves you and Gregg Lyons has a great plan for your life, you know. And so, and I saw the qualities of a pastor and a church planter in Rain. He didn't see it himself, and I said, it's time. It's time. And he said yes. And 100 people are in his church as a result of that. Thank you, Jesus, for that. We will not win our world by ourselves. Our world will be won through non-Western missionaries. And our world will also be won, I believe, by bivocational missionaries and church planters. And that's what we need to do. 2 more points quickly. Not only see opportunity when others see danger, not only trust God's reputation, not my own ability, but use what God has given me now. And I'm going to tell you the story. You know the story. So Saul talking to David, and he says, okay, you can fight Goliath. He says, you need an armor, and he gives him his armor. So David puts it on. It doesn't fit. It's too heavy. David is a teenager. Saul is a man. And David said, I can't use these. They're not fit for me. And he takes it off, and he goes to the brook. And we know the story. What does he do? Picks up 5 stones, puts them in his shepherd's bag, takes his sling and his staff, and he takes off to fight Goliath. Use what God has given me now. We have a tendency as Christians to make excuses. I'm not prepared. I can't do that. I'm not equipped. When it comes to giving to missions, I'm tapped out. Can I be honest with you? We as Americans do not understand sacrifice. Can I just say that? Sacrifice in the American culture is not getting the biggie fries at McDonald's. Let's just say it the way it is. In the middle of a recession, I promise you, on Friday night, you still have to wait for a table at the steakhouse. Let's just say it. I mean, we all got the extra bonus, during the pandemic. Everybody got $1,200. What was it? Something like that. So, if you got kids, you got more money. And you know what most Americans did? They went and blew it on stuff. They renovated their kitchen. I mean, during the time that was going on, it just kind of shut things down. But you could hold a Bible study at Home Depot. I mean, with men, because they were all there buying stuff, and the women are drawing plans at home. Go buy this. What happened? I wonder how many people, when they got that money, did they think, wow, what could I do for the kingdom with this money? Rain is trying to raise $10,000 to renovate and get into a building, because right now he's meeting in a coffee shop. I don't know if you saw that. He can't cram any more people in that coffee shop. You know, he'd have to buy the coffee shop. It's too expensive. So he's found a place. We can renovate it. He needs, it cost $1,500 a month. He negotiated down to $800. He's a pretty good negotiator. And his, as we talked about, he just shared that with me just last month when I was with him in Cambodia. And if he can rent this for 3 years, then he will raise up the congregation enough to take it over. And I thought, wow, I love this plan. And I said, you don't need an additional $800 a month. You just need 10 churches or 10 individuals or 10 businessmen to give you $1,000 one time a year. And he could do that. Can you imagine what kind of investment that would be? He's already got 100, and this place will seat 250. Is it worth it? Of course it's worth it, you know. Now, he needs 10 grand. You can't, even if you wanted to, you can't give 10 grand today, okay? Because somebody already beat you to it, all right? He's already got a commitment for $1,000. He's only got 9 left, and frankly, I told him today that my wife and I, out of our pocket, are going to give another $1,000 to him, another 1,000. You know, we'll just not buy gifts for the grandkids. We got 11 of them. Luann agreed with that. You know, give them chewing gum or something like that. Something to make their parents upset about. You know, so he needs another 8. I don't know. Maybe God will lead Victory Baptist to be one of those. Or maybe there'd be people here that would say, you know what, I'll do that. I'll do 1,000. For young people in Cambodia? Yeah, I'll do that. Use what God has given us now. We have enough money to reach the world. The studies have already been done. There's enough money in the pockets of Christians and churches in the United States to complete the Great Commission. It's already there. It's there. It's just, where's our heart? Use what God has given me now. Last. Keep moving when the battle is hot. So David takes off to fight Goliath. Goliath looks at him and says this, am I a dog that you are coming to me with sticks? I will feed your flesh to the birds of the field today. David says, no. And it says in verse 48, so it was when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran toward the army. He hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. When the battle gets hot, you got to keep going. It doesn't matter. Did you really think the Christian life was going to be easy? There's not a promise in the Bible that says the Christian life will be easy. There is a promise that God will be with you, that his burden is light, and he will help you with that. But you got to keep moving. So I challenge you, as you consider what you're going to do for missions today, to see the opportunity. It's not a loss. To trust God's reputation. Have you ever known anybody that God has failed? Has God ever failed you? Why would you think he would fail you if you gave something just generous, more than you've ever given before? He's not going to fail you. He has a great reputation. Use what God has given me now and keep moving when the battle is hot. God bless you.